Ilhan Omar facing backlash for comments about the chaos in Venezuela. The controversial freshman Democrat now suggesting that America could be partly to blame for the uprising against Nicolas Maduro's socialist regime.
A lot of the policies that we have put in place has kind of helped lead the devastation in Venezuela. This particular bullying and the use of sanctions to eventually intervene and make regime change really does not help the people of countries like Venezuela.
And to be fair, she did give another statement to Fox today, and I do think that we should play this because she was trying to explain more about what she thinks. Watch.
The United States' role should be one that is advocating for there to be fair elections. It should be one of guidance and technical support. I don't believe that interventions that are pushing for regime change are in the best interest of Venezuela and the best interest of the American people.
Okay, Jesse, let me go to you. Not in the best interest of the Venezuelan people to have regime change.
Oh, wow. I just want her to say one good thing about America. Just one. I'd issue a challenge right now. Omar, please say one good thing about America.
Or at least about Jesse.
One thing. Yeah, that's a consolation.
I am America. Good thing about America.
We hear her so much say this, what's wrong with America. Just say what you're proud of. I think that would maybe counterbalance some of the negativity that you hear coming out of her mouth. Also, we should send her a dictionary because America's not bullying the people of Venezuela. It's Maduro and the Russian-backed military that are taking away people's rights and shooting into the crowd and doing all those things. Also, this is what socialists do. When something good happens in the world, what they do is they say, oh, why can't America be like that country? And then when something bad happens in the world, they say, oh, that's America's fault that that's happening. But they can never cede the point that socialism is failing on its own. Remember what the communists did after the Soviet Union collapsed? They said, oh, well, communism has never been perfectly implemented. Or they did the same thing with Obamacare. Oh, Obamacare failed because Donald Trump undermined it. But at this point, I just want to, I want her to do this. Stop siding with the Russians. I mean, 2 years, you say you want to start World War III over the Russian interference in the election. Now they're interfering physically in our hemisphere, and you're siding with them.
Well, the other thing is that the actual constitution in Venezuela was followed, and the recognized president, Guaido, recognized by 51 countries, including the United States, they're following. So Maduro is not even the recognized leader of the country anymore.
Right. And so what she's saying is our role should be advocating for fair elections. That's exactly what we did. We're advocating for that fair election, and we're bullying. She uses the word bullying. If we were bullying at all, you're bullying a guy whose military tanks are mowing down people in the streets.
You're bullying the bully.
Yeah, exactly. So somebody's got to stand up for these people. We talked about how these people are in large part, in all part actually, completely unarmed. They feel extremely vulnerable. They feel they're starving in the streets. They're digging through garbage for their food. I commend any country and any leader of any country who bullies a leader who subjects its people to that kind of atrocity.
And Greg, some people might say that we're not doing enough to help them.
Some people might be me for that. Yeah, you know what's weird is, like, I mean, she positions herself as someone who is for the underdog. So she should be really out in front for these people, the people that are being run over, the people that are starving. They're the true oppressed. I mean, I believe that, see, the thing is, her ideology exists independent of politics or religion. It's ingrained in the hard left, the oppressor versus oppressed ideology. She always believes that places like America are guilty of imperialism, of being the oppressor. And here's a situation where you actually have people that are being oppressed, but all she sees is the Yankee imperialism that is ingrained, not from any religion, and also not really from any politics, but from our own academia. This isn't Muhammad's doctrine. This is Bill Ayer's doctrine. The belief that the radical belief that if you look at any evil around the world, America is at the root.
Right. But the one, she might say that it's based on her experience as a child, and that was in the refugee camp, and then she came to America, and she just had a different upbringing initially, and when she was very frustrated that the United States was not, she didn't think was helping them enough. That's
an accurate account, but I think she's wrong on this point. I mean, to me, the United States has a history of bullying interference in Latin America. You think about Nicaragua, you think about El Salvador, and the kind of unrest that we fomented there, quite intentionally. CIA very active. But I think in this case, what you have is not so much socialism, Jesse, as despots. I think that when you think of Hugo Chavez, when you think of Nicolas Maduro, or you think of the influence coming from Putin, coming from the Chinese as well, these are despots who are trying to run over
In Iran.
lots of deserving people.
It doesn't mean they can't be both socialism and despotic
No,
rulers.
I
don't think you can completely separate it.
This is totally separate. This is nothing to do with socialist rule. This is about people who are cruel, indifferent leaders. That's what Maduro is.
But how did they get there,
No,
Juan?
okay, let me just say, if you want to talk about that, then you have to talk about big oil companies coming in, making deals, running over people.
Big oil companies did not run this country into the ground, Juan.
I think that you should go do some studying because you find that
They nationalized the oil companies, and then they looted them.
In response to the abuses of big oil. But let's stop. I don't think it's worth going over, but I do think it's important to say that she's wrong and that the reason for this collapse is despotic behavior that needs to be countered instead of supported by the Russians and the Chinese.
She's been wrong on everything. Okay, so but the point is, the advice to Republicans about Omar is the same advice I give to Democrats about Trump. If you have a problem with her, try to win the election. Put somebody up against her and beat her at the voting booth, because she is motivated, to me, by a lot of anger and a lot of disdain.